Before we get into this one, if you could just hit that subscribe button down below, that would mean a massive amount to me. Without further ado though, let's get straight into the video. So today's video is another transfer video, and because we've been quite transfer heavy recently, I'm going to do a little bit of a different style. So as you can see from the title and thumbnail, I'm actually going to be comparing two potential signings for the holding midfielder role, seeing how they weigh up against each other and coming to a conclusion at the end of the video of which one I would prefer to sign. So the two in question, like I said, you've seen it in the thumbnail and title, are Sander Berge from Sheffield United and Tyler Adams from RB Leipzig. So for me, in the holding midfield role for Leeds United, there are three key categories. Number one is interceptions, number two, tackles, and number three, progressive passes. Now, the reason for this is, number one, interceptions. They need to cut the passing lanes. They need to be stood in the right area at the right time to cut those passes out and spring counter-attacks, especially in this new Marsh system, which is heavily reliant on the counter-attack. The next one, tackles. Obviously, if they're going to be elephant in the room, maybe replacing Calvin Phillips, they need to be a tough tackler. They need to get stuck in and they need to win the ball in those positions as well as intercept the ball to spring the same sort of counter attacks from those attacking midfielders who are trying to come on to us. They would like to then get the ball, either interceptions or tackles, and get the ball up the pitch. So when they do get the ball up the pitch, most of the time you're not expecting your holding midfielder to run half the pitch, are you? You're expecting them to have a good passing range and get the ball forward. So the third one for me is progressive passes. Now, progressive passes are a pass that goes further towards the opposition goal than any of the last 6 passes in a move. So if the ball is given to Sander Berge or Tyler Adams, we're basically looking for them to get the ball up the pitch so the opposition half to get that counter-attack going, whether that be spreading the ball out wide, whether that be direct balls up to the front man, which Jesse Marsch likes to play, and Bamford is good at winning those headers. So those are the three statistics. So let's have a look at them then. And just before we dive into the statistics, I am just going to caveat this by saying that the Sander Berge statistics that I've got are from when he played in the Premier League last season, the season before this one that's just finished, and that's because there simply isn't enough statistics available to the public basically for the Championship. And if he's going to be playing in the Premier League, it's actually better to compare his Premier League statistics to his Championship statistics this season because of the level of opposition that he's playing against. So with that said, let's get into the statistics. This season, Tyler Adams has made 1.5 interceptions per 90 compared to Sander Berge's from last season, 0.25. And this may be down to the system that he plays in, but regardless of what system you play in, you're expecting your holding midfielder to make at least 1 interception per 90. And the fact that Sander Berge didn't manage that, for me, is a worrying sign. It might be to do with the way that Sheffield United played, but like I say, I would like my holding midfielders to be making more interceptions than that, way more. And Tyler Adams comes out on top by a mile in this category. Progressive passes is a similar story, with Tyler Adams having 4.1 progressive passes per 90 and Sander Berge having 2.4, so nearly double. Again, Tyler Adams is playing in the Bundesliga for a top side in RB Leipzig, so when he does have the ball, he has got those options to go long. But Sheffield United in the Premier League, it's not like you don't have players in those positions. There are still people to pass to, and Sander Berge just failed in that statistic for me. Not completely, but compared to Tyler Adams, I think Tyler Adams is just much better at progressing the ball. Tackles, though, is actually very similar from both of them, with Tyler Adams making 1.7 and Sander Berge making 1.69. So for me, that is a complete draw, completely similar. 1.7 tackles per 90, I think that's a fairly respectable stat for the holding midfielder. I think, like I said before, the reason we want that is to get into the tackle, win the ball, and then progress the ball up the pitch with those progressive passes that Tyler Adams comes out on top of. And he comes out on top of the interceptions as well. So at the moment, it's looking like, for me, in the 3 key statistics, Tyler Adams is a winner in all 3. Obviously, it's a draw in the tackles, but for me, because of the other ones, he's the clear pick. But let's have a look at their other attributes then. These aren't so much statistics, but these are the price, height, things like that come into play. Tyler Adams is 23-year-old and Sander Berge is 24-year-old, so there isn't much difference there. You'd still be signing a player who's yet to come into their prime. for a reasonable price. Now, Sander Berge is said to be about £15 million. Tyler Adams, however, is said to be about 25 to 30 million pounds. That is what Leipzig have valued him at. So that is a much, much bigger investment. Now, for me, I think if Calvin Phillips goes, we go for Tyler Adams. If he doesn't, I think it's likely that we might still go in for someone like Sander Berge for that price. There's also Lewis O'Brien as well, but I think because for me, Sander Berge is a better option. That's why he's in this video and Lewis O'Brien isn't. But I think for me, if Phillips goes, it's got to be Tyler Adams in that role. The only other thing though is the height. Now, height doesn't always matter because some players have been short throughout the history of football. Like Lionel Messi was told he'd never make it professional because of his height, and yet he became the greatest player of all time. Comment down below if you disagree. But Tyler Adams is 5'7", and for a holding midfielder who you want to be physical and you want to be winning the ball, Marc Roca isn't the tallest either, so you kind of want one that is a bit more of a physical presence. Tyler Adams doesn't seem like he's that. He seems like he's a bit more of a technical player who can still get down and dirty, win the ball, and progress the ball with a bit of technical skill. Sander Berge is 6'4", so he's a bit of a monster. He would command that midfield in a way that Tyler Adams probably couldn't, but then Sander Berge doesn't have the same technical ability, so it's a bit of a toss-up. For me, I still think I go with Tyler Adams for that technical skill. I think if he was a lone holding midfielder you were going for, your pick would be Sander Berge because he's a more of a physical presence. He's still got okay statistics. Granted, he needs to improve in the interceptions category. But because we're playing a double pivot and you've got cover on both sides, for me, Tyler Adams has to be the pick, even with that much money. Because it looks like Calvin Phillips is going to go, which is obviously, I'll make a video in itself when Man City make their bid. But for me, Tyler Adams has to be the choice. I think he's much better technically on the ball. Like I say, if you are playing two in that role, he has more cover with Marc Roca sitting next to him. So I think it has to be, I think it has to be Tyler Adams in this case. I think we've made a lot of astute signings this summer already. Ones for not massive amounts of money, like your 10 millions for Christensen, your 12 million for, or 10.4 million for Marc Roca, which I did in the last video, talked about that. I think it's time to spend up. 25 million isn't that much money for a good holding midfielder with bags and bags of potential. So for me, Tyler Adams comes out on top in this video, and I'd like to see him sign for Leeds United. That said, I wouldn't say no to Sander Berge. I think he's definitely got ability, he's got promise, and he's a big commanding midfielder. So yeah, I wouldn't say no to him either. I hope you enjoyed this video, a bit more of a statistical breakdown. It was a bit more, I tried to do something different really, because we've been, like I say, very transfer heavy recently. So let me know if you want to see more like this, comparing transfer targets and who I think would be the best signing out of the two. But that's going to be the end of the video. So thanks for watching Leeds Lately again. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Like I said at the start, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you next time.